Different people have different ideas about what happened on January 6th. You know, for many people, it was the day right-wing fanatics attacked America's democracy. For Trump supporters, it was a field trip where they got to meet their friends from the internet. But now, the committee says that it can prove that January 6th wasn't just a spontaneous riot by an angry mob. It was the climax of a long, coordinated plot by Donald Trump, which, I don't know about you, for me is shocking. No, because I didn't think Trump could coordinate anything in advance. The man can't even plan where a sentence should end. Like, I didn't think that would happen. But according to the committee, Trump planned to overthrow the election because he knew that he had lost. And the reason that we know he knew that he had lost is because now everyone around him is spilling the beans.
The committee relied on some of those closest to Donald Trump to make its case. His once loyal attorney general, who told investigators Trump's claims of a stolen election were bunk.
I told him that the stuff that his people were shoveling out to the public was bullshit. I mean, that the claims of fraud were bullshit. I thought, boy, if he really believes this stuff, he has, lost contact with he's become detached from reality.
And the president's own daughter and senior advisor.
I respect Attorney General Barr, so I accepted what he was saying.
Hours after the hearing, Trump put out a statement saying his daughter, quote, had long since checked out and was only trying to be respectful to Bill Barr.
Wait, I'm sorry. Ivanka checked out? When was she checked in? Because for 4 years, it looked like she was just walking around trying to find her desk. When was she checked in? Checked out of what? This is like if Machine Gun Kelly said he was no longer pursuing a PhD in nuclear physics. When was that even happening? Was that a thing? But yeah, Trump's inner circle was well aware that the election did not go their way. And they told Trump, except for one person who had the liquid courage to say that Trump did win.
President Trump rejected the advice of his campaign experts on election night and instead followed the course recommended by an apparently inebriated Rudy Giuliani to just claim he won and insist that the vote counting stop.
Was there anyone in that conversation who, in your observation, had too much to drink?
Like Mayor Giuliani. In the mayor was definitely intoxicated.
Yeah, according to this former Trump aide, Rudy Giuliani was wasted on election night when he told Trump that the election was stolen from him. And I'm just curious about how you even know when Rudy Giuliani is drunk. No, because when a normal person is drunk, they say crazy things, they yell, they sweat a lot. So how does that work with Rudy? Does it work in reverse? Like, does he start talking normally? His hair dye sucks back into his hair? How does this work? And it actually says a lot about Trump that a whole team of sober advisors, his attorney general, his campaign manager, his daughter, who he wants to bang, yeah, we haven't forgotten, they were all telling him, you lost this election, sir. But then Trump was like, yeah, whatever, drunk vampire, what do you think? When you think about it, it actually makes sense that Trump would listen to a drunk person because that's the one time people probably sound like him. He's just like, what do you guys think we should do? And he's like, I'll tell you what I think we should do. Wow, there's something about this guy. He totally gets it. You get it. I get it. You get it. We get it. So the January 6th committee says that Trump started plotting months before the actual event, months before. And their proof that he got what he wanted is that he didn't try to stop the riot once it started. No, he didn't get on the phone with the Defense Department or call in the National Guard. It turns out it was actually Mike Pence who did that. Yeah, Mike Pence was basically the president for a few hours, which is why we have that law now banning water for being too spicy. And it would have been bad enough if Trump did nothing, but instead, he actively riled up the crowd even more.
In one piece of never-before-seen video of the attack, a rioter is shown reading Trump's tweet criticizing his vice president even as the Capitol was breached, and how it turned the crowd against Mike Pence.
Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution, giving states a chance to certify a corrected set of facts, not the fraudulent or inaccurate ones which they were asked to previously certify. U.S. demands the truth.
Yeah. Not only did Trump not try to stop the riot, but while it was happening, he was tweeting out statements that were riling up the mob, which is not something you expect from a president. You know, that's something you expect from a guy on the edge of a Waffle House fight. It's like, yeah, that's right, he stole your fries. You should beat his ass, burn the whole store down. Yeah, I'll take your order in a second. I'm just trying to get this fight going, come on. It was wild that guy was reading the tweet. He's standing there in the insurrection. He's like, here's a message from Trump right now. You know what would have been funny, though? Is if that wasn't the only Trump tweet that guy read to the crowd to get them going.
Robert Pattinson should not take back Kristen Stewart. She cheated on him like a dog and will do it again. Sorry, losers and haters, but my IQ is one of the highest, and you all know it. Sorry, folks, I'm just not a fan of sharks. And don't worry, they will be around long after we are gone.
Yep, those rioters killed every shark that day. So the hearings showed Trump's team told him that he lost. He didn't do anything to stop the riots, and he actively added fuel to the fire while the Capitol building was being swarmed. But today, they released one of the most damning pieces of evidence proving Trump knew his election fraud claims were fake, which is that when he asked his supporters to donate money so that he could fight the fraud in court, he just took the money and ran.
Listen to what one of their senior investigators, Amanda Wick, said about what they discovered about the way Trump and his associates raised money.
The claims that the election was stolen were so successful. President Trump and his allies raised $250 million, nearly $100 million in the first week after the election. On November 9th, 2020, President Trump created a separate entity called the Save America PAC. Most of the money raised went to this newly created PAC, not to election-related litigation.
And what's important about this, Victor, it's not just that they were peddling the big lie through these emails, fundraising solicitations. They also weren't using that money for the purpose of trying to truly find election fraud or fight these court battles. That's evidence of fraud. The next question is, does the Department of Justice do anything with it?
Wait, what? Donald Trump conned his supporters? That is so predictable. But how are you shocked by this? I mean, the man is consistent, if nothing else. Honestly, if you got tricked by Trump scamming you, maybe your money deserves a better home. Yeah, and yes, I'm victim blaming. I don't care. I will say what impressed me about this whole thing was how fast it was this time. The second the election ended, Trump didn't wait around. He knew it was over, and then he just went full-on Nigerian prince. Yeah, just jumped in. Like his whole scam sounded like it was an email. He's just like, hello, my friend. I am the president of a very powerful country. Sadly, I am in need of money to save my people. Donate today, and your money will be used for the great fight, and definitely not so I can go to dinner with Kid Rock, huh? Send them money, please. Send it now. All of them money. So that's what we've learned from the January 6th committee hearing so far. But there is plenty more to come, and we will keep you updated on all the news from this investigation. Yeah, from now up until the moment that Donald J. Trump is put behind bars. I'm kidding. You know that dude's going to be president again. This is America.